Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to Star Chaser Ranch. Today we're in the TOC because I'm so excited about this. I ordered 30 of these evergreen trees, and I'm not sure how to pronounce them. They are spelled Thuja, Thuja. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, so that's probably the best that I can do. But I just got them, and they're well rooted, so they're really good plants so far. Everything looks amazing. But I am going to up-pot them so that I can make sure that they survive through the winter, and then I can start transplanting them in the spring. Right now outside this morning while I was milking Mabel, it was 20 degrees. That's Fahrenheit. So we're kind of southwestern Idaho, and our area being a high desert, typically we get about 8 inches of precipitation every year. It seems like we've had a couple really good snows already, so I'm hoping we break that record. It would be really nice to have a nice wet year, especially going into next spring as we expand the garden even more. But in the meantime, we're in the high tunnel. We're in the TOC, and it's really nice. Can't wear a jacket, can't wear a coat in here because it's nice and warm. But we're going to be up-potting all of these here, and you can see that the pots are not very big. And what I'm going to do is up-pot them, not a whole lot bigger, but enough bigger that it's going to get some more root structure going before spring. And then when spring happens, then I'm going to be transplanting them outside. So most of these are going to go along the fence line because if you do know me, if you know my situation, I have a neighbor, kind of a nasty neighbor. Anyway, this neighbor doesn't like the high tunnel, doesn't like farming, because he lives on ag land, doesn't like farming, whatever. Anyway, so what I am doing is I'm going to be transplanting these. I've already got some dirt in the pots here, so all I have to do is stick this in and squish it down. Transplanted. It just gives a little bit more structure for the roots to grow. But these plants are going to go along the fence line where the dogs are constantly charging the fence, constantly lunging at the fence, constantly barking at me at the fence, and hopefully this will kind of block the dog's view of my livestock, of me, and maybe even block the view from my neighbor for the high tunnel. This same neighbor complained about seeing the high tunnel after he mowed down his 6-foot-tall weeds. Like, seriously? It's my fault you finally decided to take care of your land? Really? Come on. Anyway, so these are really pretty evergreens. I picked these specifically because they grow about 2 to 3 feet a year, and I'm hoping that that holds true as I come in this next year. They should be 2 to 3 feet tall. Right now, I'd say they're about 10 inches, so not too big right now, but if they grow 2 to 3 feet tall, they will be anywhere between 3 and 4 feet tall by the end of the year. Cross your fingers. With them being in the tunnel, it'll actually help them grow throughout the winter. Another option that I have is I could put them in the greenhouse where it doesn't get below 45 at all. And that would allow them to really grow all winter long. It would give them the best environment for them to grow all winter long until the spring, and then they would do a new kickstart and grow even bigger. So that's my hope. But I have 30 of them. They are usually planted 5 to 6 feet apart. But what I'm also doing is I am transplanting some of my poplars. Poplars are kind of invasive. So you get all the root structure and then a plant pops up somewhere else. Well, all of those pop-ups somewhere else, you can dig up if you do it right and then plant them somewhere else and they'll grow. Now the poplars are huge. These things, they're, I mean, ginormous. But I have to be careful about where I'm planting those because I can't have them blocking the sun during the winter for the high tunnel, because that would then prevent the plants inside the high tunnel from growing as well. As it is, I have to put lights in the tunnel to give the plants enough light to grow better during the winter. So, want to make sure that we still have light for the tunnel, but that we have some type of a protective mechanism to keep the neighbor's dogs at bay. This is the same neighbor whose other dog has killed 3 of my chickens. And of course, the neighbor never replaced them, so that's just the kind of neighbor it is. But we all end up with neighbors like that, so best thing you can do is drive on, living your life to the fullest. Enjoying your land because you have a legal right to enjoy your land. So definitely do that. All right, need more pots. All right. I was just in the high tunnel earlier and uncovering the second cover from the beds, and it was so hot in there that I could feel the heat as I was removing the second cover from the beds. That it just permeated right on. You could feel it. You could feel the heat. So it's definitely working. It's definitely doing what it's supposed to do. It's doing its job, and that's the best I could hope for. But if you were to go in there, oh my goodness, you would think that it was some kind of tropical environment, other than when it gets cold at night. So the tunnel, while it protects the cold crops and allows the cold crops to grow all year long, and it does warm everything up tremendously during the day, the temperature still drops at night. So you can't grow any frost tender plants in a tunnel unless you heat it, and I'm not going to heat it. I definitely want to make sure that I can grow stuff without added energy costs. So that's the reason that we're doing the tunnel instead of another greenhouse, because we don't want to add the additional energy cost to growing plants. And you can still grow seasonal plants all winter long as it's the right plants. You just don't want to try and grow something that you're going to be putting a whole lot of effort into to keep it alive. And that's our goal. Our main goal is to provide food all year long. At least some food, some type of food. In our case, it's definitely the cold crops. So we have a whole lot of broccoli growing. The broccoli's doing fantastic. The cabbage, it's getting a slow start. I did do a 65-day cabbage and then a 72-day cabbage. 72-day cabbage and then a 120-day cabbage. So the 120-day cabbage won't come in until about the springtime, but that was kind of the plan so that we would have succession harvesting throughout the winter. So that one's definitely going to be ready in the spring, early spring, during that part of the year where most plants are just not growing at all. This one will be ready to harvest. So these wonderful little plants here are going to be a wonderful addition to the farmstead. Not only that, but there are medicinal properties to this particular plant. Again, the spelling is Thuja. I'm sure somebody out there knows how to pronounce it. I do not. But that's okay. I'm willing to grow it even if I can't pronounce it. Well, that's not going to work. These plants, these trees, also give a wind block. So some of the area that I'll be planting these in will also provide some wind block, because we get a lot of wind out here. So it's going to help with the wind block for the livestock, and maybe even provide a little bit of wind block for some of the structures and plants that I have growing in certain areas. So I also am going to be propagating my elderberry, my currant bushes, my goji berry bushes. I do have an aronia berry. It's just not big enough to be able to do something like that. So the goji berry kind of took over the area where the aronia berry was and started smothering it. So by the time I got to it, it had already been kind of through the season and wasn't doing so well. So I don't have the ability to propagate that one, but I do have a friend that lives up the road that said I can go propagate any of the bushes and brambles that he has growing. So I might actually take him up on that offer and go out and grab a bunch of cuttings from his plants so that I can propagate out here. What I'm planning on doing is creating an edge effect. So if you know anything about Matt Powers teaches permaculture, like the advanced permaculture design. He has a course that he sells and educates on, but he speaks on the edge effect, where it creates this interesting environment that you can produce a food forest through just the edge effect. And in my master's program, we also talk about the edge effect in relation to plants and animals, and how the edge of something, if you create more of an edge by giving, instead of a straight line, you zigzag or weave back and forth, you can create more of an edge, which creates more of a livable environment for the plants and the animals to be able to make full use of that area. And so what I'm planning on doing around the fence line is create a food forest using an edge effect, where the edge is not just a straight line, but it also has not only depth, but it has different heights. So you're going to have trees, bushes, shrubs, and undergrowth. It provides a more extensive environment for the animals to thrive in, along with the plants. And that's the whole permaculture thought and the permaculture design is creating an environment that doesn't constantly fight but works together with things like animals. We do have wild animals, so we have quail, and the quail don't do any damage to any of my plants at all, so I'm totally welcoming them. We do have wild rabbits, and the worry behind the wild rabbits is they spread disease, and since I raise rabbits, having rabbits on the ground that I raise and then having wild rabbits on the ground kind of give me a not so warm fuzzy. So I'd like to keep the wild rabbits as far away from my rabbits as possible. So where I'm going to be doing the edge effect, the wild rabbits tend to hang out, and keeping them in that area would be better. So that will help and encourage that kind of separation. So my rabbits will be way over there, wild rabbits will be way over there. And then hopefully nay shall the two meet. And that way I'm not trying to fight and constantly kill the wild rabbits. They can just kind of stay off in their area and I don't have to worry about it. They don't do a whole lot of damage. Even right now, with me seeing a couple of them in the garden, they don't really damage much of anything. They don't eat a whole lot, so I don't worry too much about it. It's just when they start getting closer to my rabbits that I have to do something about it. So the edge effect over in that area will help encourage them to stay in that area instead of coming over here. Of course, I'm probably going to have to maintain their population. We will cross that bridge when we get to it. In the meantime, bam! 30 plants up-potted, and it didn't even take me that long. So why don't we go tour the high tunnel real quick? So like I said, it's really, really, really warm inside the tunnels. So when I move from tunnel to tunnel, it actually kind of cools me off and it feels really good. But inside the tunnel, it's nice and warm. And of course it's still raining. Every time I touch the plastic, rain comes down. Now that doesn't do this in the TOC. The condensation in this tunnel is extensive. In the TOC, there's no condensation. I can touch the plastic of the TOC and not have any problems at all. But in here with the plants growing and me watering the plants, condensation kind of gets pretty high. So it's very humid in here. So we still have some collards and greens growing in here. This is my going to seed broccoli. I have a couple of them that have already gone to seed, and I'm going to have to start collecting those seeds. So like this one right here, I'm going to have to start collecting the seeds off of that and then cut that out. We still have caterpillar problems here. So cabbage moths have eaten up a bunch of the plants in here, but we'll get that taken care of. As it gets colder, the caterpillars can't survive nearly as well. But down here, they have not really been touched nearly as bad. Down here in the lettuce and the beet, it seems like they need a little bit of water. So I might bring the hose in a bit. I need to spray some of the other plants down and make sure that the aphids are still knocked down in those. So I'll just water everything while I'm doing that. But here you can see one of my cabbage not growing nearly as fast as the beets. Seems pretty dwarfed inside there. These 3 beds over here I still need to clear out. We have the hops that grew up there and the tomatoes and tomatillos that were there. That all needs to get torn out. And then I need to dig up my sweet potatoes from that bed, and most of that needs to be cut out. My nasturtium is pretty much dead. But if you look over here, let me come around the corner a little bit. So these rows still have artichokes growing. I was pretty sure that the cold weather at night was going to knock those down pretty well, and then I could dig up the roots and store them until the spring when I transplant them. And my calendula is still growing too. So lots of new stuff, new information. Definitely a learning experience for me. This is my first tunnel, so a lot of learning to do. And then you gotta look at this. This Brussels sprout is just beautiful. I love the purple of this thing. And then of course we have some parsley, chard, peas, carrots, beets, and radishes all through here. Now this area here, I've had several harvests out of this already, and yet it's still growing wonderfully. So as you can see, the tunnel's going really, really well. I'm getting a lot of harvests out of here still. It is early November, but everything's growing really well. And I have a lot of transplants that need to come in here, so I'm going to get more plants growing, and it's nice and warm. Nighttime's a little cold. This morning it was 20 degrees while I was out. So super cold at night, super cold early in the morning, but during the day, if the sun is out, this place heats up and it's wonderful. If you do plan on getting a tunnel, make sure you know that you have to open it up during the day, because if you don't, you will roast everything inside of there. Everything will burn. So that was it for today. Got everything. Got my trees up potted. So I think that's it for today. I'm gonna go in and do some homework. Yeah, I'm still in the stupid class. So we will see you again next time. Bye.